So what happens when you take a cast of kooky one-dimensional characters, a collection of corny cliches, and you have an incoherent plot, but you decide to offset said incoherent plot by sprinkling a little bit of meta-commentary in about filmmaking? No horror film in the year 2000 did that, except Scream 3 that was released a few months prior to this. So what you end up having is a sequel to a horror film that wasn't all that good to begin with. But that's okay, because maybe this film will be entertaining. Oh, about that. Whoo! I'm John Renton with the retro review of Urban Legend Final Cut. This movie is shit. The first Urban Legend wasn't all that great, didn't really have a lot of cohesion, didn't really have a lot of anything except deaths, centered around urban legends. I know, from a movie called Urban Legend, it's just so fucking shocking. This one centers around filmmaking, film projects, and if it was intended to be a horror film, it failed. If it was intended to be a commentary, it failed. If it was intended to be a meta-commentary on filmmaking, it failed at that. It fails in pretty much every goddamn way possible, except it doesn't fail in being fucking shit. And the sad thing is they made a third one. They made a third one, and it was dog shit. And yes, for long-time subscribers / viewers of the channel, I did end up doing a compilation review of the 3 movies, Human Centipede together. But I wanted to flesh this thing out, and considering it's a slasher, there you go. Why not flesh it out by just making fun of it? That's all this fucking movie deserves. The future director of Sinister and the Black Phone, Scott Derrickson, helped write this, but I don't think that he was able to put many ideas in this. I'm going to lay the blame at the feet of, well, anybody that came up with this being the final cut. If this was the final cut, I'd hate to see what the first cut was. Paul Harris Borden did some of the writing as well. The Exorcism of Emily Rose, The Devil's Knot, and Deliver Us from Evil. That explains a lot because all those movies are fucking shit. Jennifer Morrison was in this. She's most famous as being a doctor in House. She plays Amy because if you seek Amy, you will find her on a film set. And Joey Lawrence was in this, along with Loretta Devine as the only returning character from the first one. Oh, about that. And Eva Mendes, who was 25 during this film. And seriously doesn't look any different now. She must drink the blood of the innocent to stay young. So yeah, basically it's just a collection of, film sets on this college that isn't like the first one, except it sort of is because the first film had a set, it had just, it was set on a college campus, but it didn't feel like a live, it didn't feel like a living world. It just felt like it was, bing, we're here, bing, we're here, bing, we're here. This does it even goddamn worse. Because the first one was supposed to be filmed in the winter, but it wasn't, and that's why somebody was wearing a parka even though it was in the spring and summer. This one was filmed during the winter, yet nobody bothered to wear a parka. They wore a fencing outfit. I don't know why they wore a fencing outfit. Nothing's really fully explained here. Everything that is explained is done in the dumbest way possible. But yeah, the first one. God, the first one was shit. And it looks like goddamn Citizen Kane compared to this. So we have an opening that's like the whole, there's something on the wing of the plane, except there's a killer there. Maybe it's a precursor for Red Eye, and Red Eye was kind of weird. But we just get a bunch of people that, there's no cohesion between any of these characters. None. Their motivations are shit. Everything about this just doesn't fucking work. It's not funny. Anthony Anderson is in this, slumming it up like only he can. I wonder how many women he allegedly abused on set. Read up on it. My God, Eva Mendes looks gorgeous is what I noted. And they are going to compete for the prestigious Hitchcock Award. And if you win, you get a $15,000 stipend. That's a lot of money back now to start your film. And one of the main guys from the college says, well, let's just not try to burn this place down. Seth Rollins shakes his fist in fury. The future Seth Rollins, since this was 2000. And so the first one, again, did feel like a series of just set pieces and stuff like that and cliched characters. But even though the plot was a little ridiculous, you sort of could grasp it. In this one, there's a killer on campus, but the killer isn't around for a bit. Like, Loretta Devine, she was just brought there for, I guess, a little bit of narrative to tie back to the first one. She tells Amy about this whole thing. By the way, her telling Amy about this during a snowy drive is actually the last scene filmed in the movie, and it was within the first 15 minutes. Oh, I heard about that, Amy says. It was an urban legend. Urban legend, my ass. And then a girl gets drugged. And then her kidney's missing. She calls on a headset. And this girl says, oh, let me guess, your kidney's missing? Listen, honey, I got Princess Di on, line 4. I gotta go. Again, the comedy doesn't fucking work at all. Anthony Anderson's an idiot, is what I noted here. The director's, direction must have just been, nobody act like a human at any goddamn point, because nobody did. Nobody act like an actual human. There's a guy named Travis, played by Matthew Davies, who has a failed film project and ends up shooting himself. Okay, that sucks. And then suddenly somebody that looks just like him shows up. Did he fake his own death? No, it actually turns out he has a twin. He had to play 2 roles, and he ended up getting 1 paycheck. He got shafted horribly. There's also a bastard guy named Toby, who's a director, who's a bit of a hack, and tells Amy, nobody steals Hitchcock from me. There's actual dialogue they left in the fucking goddamn thing. And Joey Lawrence, continues to be a weird creep, but then also turns out to actually not be that bad of a guy. And then there's a Russian guy that goes by Simon, even though his real name is Shorm, or something like that. He's a director of photography. He don't last long. And then there's this one, a lot of the kills are homages or homage to, various other films, like this one girl, Sandra, getting killed with a stabby point, not like a knife at the end of the camera, but it was like a slicer, like a little razor is just doing this. It was like in Peeping Tom, except Peeping Tom did it well. People just die. People just start dying, just randomly. Why are these people dying? Nobody goddamn knows. Everybody's just around. Characters will just show up, disappear, and Joey Lawrence ends up being a creep. He says, you're a film buff just like me. I know about your dad. Your dad may have died in 1992, but he did nature documentaries. And that's how you got into this school. Ha ha ha. I broke in and found out about your studio or your student file. And then Amy finds out about Trevor being the twin and whispers her explanation to the point I think they could turn the mic up and it would have sounded like this. You wouldn't have been able to hear it at all. You might have been able to hear it like that, but you couldn't have heard it without she was saying it. Why would you talk like that? Who the fuck came up with that? They did 20 takes and that was the best one. I'm looking at my notes here and I'm just fucking laughing because none of the deaths were any goddamn good. The killer was wearing a fencing helmet for no goddamn reason. I mean, yeah, to hide the identity, but it's like, okay, was the killer a fencer? Did they just come up with something because they had nothing better to do? Did they not want to go back to the parka? There was Foxy Brown clips because Loretta Devine loved Pam Grier in the first one, so let's revisit that. Simon ends up getting killed. Amy wants to look at the tapes. She loses the tapes after watching them because the killer comes after her, and she throws them like an idiot, and then ends up leaving the tower or whatever the fuck because she had to leave the tower before she got locked up. And then she played Vamoose, and now they know the plot. Yeah, I screwed up the Animaniacs theme, and I'm just going to roll on. But first, the killer is playing the piano. That's a grand idea. And then she escapes out the tower, and then goes through this forest. Apparently, this college is located on Amish farm. And then it was filmed Dave for Men and Night, as it were. She ends up going down some steps. Bing, we're at a boathouse. Just a boathouse, just out of nowhere. And she falls in the goddamn lake. And then the killer gets the tape. But then hunts after her. She ends up below this boathouse, somehow ending up in sewers that are right by the lake. I mean, I guess that sort of makes sense, but it doesn't look like these sewers are anywhere close to where they were, where the shots were. And then Trevor's like, saying for the second time, don't tell the police. Well, it turns out that I have a bad past and Travis is trying to help me. And then we have to find the killer. I'll watch you while you do your filmmaking. I'll watch from afar. And then she has flashbacks while, the recaps are going on. It makes no goddamn sense. And then they're going to go film something at a mining set that looks like a straight out the Miner 49er Scoob. It's the Tunnel of Terror. And Anthony Anderson and some other guy that I don't remember the name of because it's not fucking important for the purposes of this fucking equation. He's a goddamn nerdy looking guy. Trevor's nearby. She sends Eva Mendes away. Just go get lunch, even though we're going to be here all night. Probably should have thought about that before we drove all the fuck way out here. But now it's just Anthony Anderson and this other nerdy guy taking all these bodies and all this stuff, and there's these creepy animatronic miners. And oh, there's the killer. And then the killer pickaxes both of them to death. Tries to get Amy. Doesn't somehow get Amy. And she somehow doesn't kick the person off the ladder. She escapes. Ends up sleeping with Trevor. I actually forgot the name if it was Travis or Trevor. Then a weird sex scene / nightmare where she gets stabbed. He disappears because he later reveals he found something. And then there's Vanessa, Eva Mendes' character, just showing up and saying, I got your letter. I didn't write a letter. Wait, here's the killer. Who the fuck paced this movie? Oh. So anyway, then it turns out that Trevor and Amy, they capture Toby. Because why the fuck wouldn't they? They just capture that. Vanessa gets hung at one point. All the bodies are in this tower, by the way, before that. And rats are eating them. Very clean rats, by the way. And then they end up capturing Toby because they look at this film and they realize, hey, wait a second. Somebody messed with the film. It has to be Toby. He's the only other person. Why the fuck wouldn't he do that? Well, it turns out, actually, that it is Travis. It's not Trevor. Oh, no. It's all a twist. But then the professor shows up. The professor from, like, the beginning of the movie that said, hey, let's go after the prestigious Hitchcock Award and let's do all this shit. And he's also a hack because he was getting fed lines earlier. So that probably should have meant a bit of a clue, except the movie goes and tries to go in so many different directions while going nowhere that you don't care who the killer is. And then he did the killing. Oh, no. He did the killing because it turned out that he couldn't win the prestigious Hitchcock Award because they needed a deciding vote. Amy's father ended up, voting for another guy named Chip, I believe, and that meant that he just had to teach. He couldn't just maybe come up with a way to fundraise or do something or film independent films on his own. He really needed that 15 grand, so he decided to start killing people. He took credit for Travis's project, killed him, and then we get this bad fight on this set that apparently was straight out of like some zombie movie. Joey Lawrence gets shot, falls in the goddamn thing. Loretta Devine is like, hey, what the hell? What's going on here? Amy, kick the gun towards me. Wait a second. She ends up saying something. Amy, I saw you leave the tower. And then the professor ends up kind of revealing his hand and says, well, I never told anybody that I saw her leave the tower. And then they've knocked some prop guns over. And fortunately, Amy grabs the one gun that is actually good. It was Loretta Devine's gun. And then she says, well, you know what they say, Professor, those who can't do, teach. And then the professor gets shot. And Travis's film wins the award. And then a guy gets shot in the balcony trying to shoot Travis or Trevor. Sorry, get a bit lost here with all the T's. And then it turns out it's another film because a guy gets shot and falls into an airbag. And here we go. Apparently she is a high-class filmmaker now, Amy is. And that's it. Oh, wait, we go to the credits. The director is in a persistent vegetative state being pushed around. And it turns out that Brenda, the killer from the first one that got shot, drowned, and somehow ended up at another college, is here as a nurse. Following me so far? Because I ain't following shit. So we got the third one to fucking do out of this fucking goddamn shit. Goddamn. Let me fucking know what you guys have to say in the comments. Goddamn. This movie's so fucking bad. It's not funny. It's not horrifying. Except for the fact it got made. And it's not good meta commentary on filmmaking. Fuck. Anyway, agree, disagree what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rethlin. I'll see you soon.